Hello everybody, Decaff back again with another video tutorial. Today we're going to talk about adding in new objects. So here we are with our default setup. I'm going to go ahead and get rid of all of these by just pressing A and X to delete. And now let's go ahead and try to add something in. If we go over here to the toolbar drop-down menu over here, we have this add function where we can add in different things. We can add in empties, text, all sorts of good things. But today we're going to talk about meshes and putting a few different examples in. Meshes are what we use as objects. That was the cube. That's our default cube is a mesh. So let's go ahead and start in with a cube. And here we go. Here is a default cube for us. Now notice that this came in exactly where the cursor was. So if we want to move the cursor to move where this is importing, we're going to have to do a little bit of tricky stuff to go around with it. Or we could just insert the object wherever the cursor happens to be, and then open up the end window and then move it. Whichever you want to do, that's fine. I prefer just to put it in wherever and then move it, because that lets me size it up and then fit it in. So rather than go into the add and then through all there, we can do a little keyboard shortcut and just hit the space bar. The space bar opens up this sort of an add dialog, which allows us to put in our meshes, do some other things. So let's go with a cylinder. Now this cylinder add menu is the same thing if you were doing with a cone, and it has a few different functions that you want to be aware of. Vertices is the number of vertices on the circle. Radius, again, is how far it is from the center point to the edge. Depth is how tall this cylinder is going to be, and if you want to have open ends, you deselect that. But we want to have these ends closed, so we'll select it. Let's go with 16, just because that is generally enough for YS Flight modding. You find that too many vertices, you really start to bog down with your frames per second when you're actually playing. Let's bump this up a little bit. So here's our cylinder. Nothing too special. You can see all the sides on it. Pretty straightforward what this is. But let's go and look at how this looks in here. So we have, looks like about 16 on the edge here, 1 in the center. And what we can do is quickly turn this into whatever we want. If we were trying to make this a cone, what we can do is select all the vertices up there and scale that down to 0. And there is a cone for us. So we don't specifically have to add in a cone. We can make a cone however we want. But that might not be what we want to do. Let's say we were trying to make a missile or something like that. So that'll be a little bit difficult, but we're going to introduce a new thing today called cutting. What cutting does is it allows us to make different shapes, allows us to make different paint schemes and things like that. And it's a very, very important tool for YS Flight modding. It's one of the most fundamental tools that we can use. So let me go ahead and center this. Go ahead and put all these at 0. There we go. Close out of there. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to want to stretch this out a little bit. So I'm going to scale in the Z direction. And I'm going to scale it maybe 3 times. So this is going to be the length that I want my missile to be. Well, no missile is complete without a nose section. And rather than add in a cone and try to fiddle around and put it right on top, what I'm going to do is make a cut and then shrink everything up here. So here's what I'm going to do. In edit mode, I'm going to go to one of the side views. In this case, it was the first view. And I am going to press the K button. The K button brings up the cut mode. And This allows us to do several things. The knife tool, which is the cutting tool, we can go exactly where we trace. We can go midpoints on a line or something like that. Or we can do a multi-cut where it automatically says, alright, you input maybe 5 and then it'll make 5 cuts across the span. So let's go ahead and look at all the different options that we have here. Let's go with the knife cut. And if we just drag that across and press enter, we notice that we have a fairly uneven line going across. Well, that's not very nice. The one good thing about the knife cut is that we can specifically tell it where to go, whereas the others are going to be a little bit harder to control. So let's go back, press K again, and bring back the exact knife tool. Now I'm trying to scale in and zoom in and out here. You can't do that. You can't move your object without going out of the knife mode. It's just one of those funky things that it locks you out of. So be careful when you're trying to cut things. You're going to get that. So one thing that you can do to make your cuts a little bit nicer with the just the regular old exact cut tool is to click once and then drag. That allows it a straight line to go wherever you want to go. Now, if you're trying to go right parallel to an axis like this way, or straight up vertically, what you can do is drag in a direction and then click the middle mouse button, and it will go parallel to the axis. So in this case, it's going to be parallel to the red axis or the x-axis, and that gives me a straight cut all the way across. So this is a very useful thing. Now let's say that that wasn't actually exactly where we wanted it to be. That's okay. If we deselect everything and then just select those points, we can now move those all the way around. Alright, let's get rid of that cut. Now let's go and look at the midpoint cuts. Midpoints are pretty useful if you're just trying to go exactly in the middle of everything. It just makes everything a lot easier. So right now I just cut this cylinder in half. Pretty useful tool. The other tool, one thing I should point out with the midpoints cut is it doesn't matter what view I'm at, it's always going to go directly to the center. Beforehand with the exact cut tool, where I was viewing from really made a difference. So to show that, let's go back to the exact cut and make it cut like that. And you notice that my cut is now at an angle. That's very important to note when you're playing around with the cut tool. So let's go to the final cut, and that is the multi-cut tool. And this allows us to select the number of cuts that we want. So let's just go with 3, just for an example. And we'll drag across. And there we go, 3 cuts going straight across. So let's go ahead and start to use these things that I've shown to start making our missile. So we have our cylinder. Now we're going to select everything, go to the side view, and we're going to want to figure out where we want to make the nose start. So let's go ahead and just do a midpoint, and to make things a little bit simpler and make it a little more pronounced, we're going to scale all of these to 0 so we can see, oh yeah, there's our nose cone. And what we're going to do is just bring this section up and down until we get to approximately where we want to go. That looks about right. So now let's say we want to make this cone a little bit more natural. Rather than a straight pointed cone, let's go with a little more curved side there. What we can do is go in with the multi-cut tool, and let's go with 3 again, and go straight across. And that gives us 3 evenly spaced, always perpendicular to the z-axis here, cuts going straight through. And now we can play around with scaling. So if I scale this going out, I can really start to make this look much more realistic. There, that looks a lot better than just a straight cone. So there's one last thing that we want to look at here, and if we were to export this model just as it is right now, it would be very choppy. So what we can do to make this smoother is to press the Set Smooth button down here. In edit mode, or when you have an object selected, any face that you have selected will now become smooth. So let's go into edit mode. I'll go into the solid view here, and I'm just going to select a small number. Oops. There we go. A small number of surfaces, and I'm going to hit Set Smooth. And immediately you see the difference. That's pretty spectacular difference to see. So let's stay in object mode and just hit Set Smooth. Now this entire object is smoother. Now a couple things to note when you're playing around with the Set Smooth tool is that points, like the nose cone up here, and 90-degree edges can get a little bit funky. So you got to really watch out for those. So if you have any questions about this, go ahead and put them in the comment section down below. I'll do my best to answer them like always. So long. Happy modding.